The room went dead quiet when all 8 of them stood up at the same time. I'm talking about 8 executives, the whole leadership team, and they had this look on their faces, like I'd just told them their mothers were ugly. My voice just died right there in the middle of explaining why our safety harnesses were failing left and right. "We're done listening to this crap, Walsh," said Patricia Voss, our CEO. She had this way of talking like she owned the world and everyone in it. "This presentation is a complete waste of time. Let me back up. My name's Eugene Walsh. I'm 47 years old, and I've spent the last 23 years building things that are supposed to keep people alive. Started at NASA working on spacecraft, did some defense contracting, and for the past 8 years I've been trying to make sure construction workers get home safe every night. Today was the day I found out how much that was going to cost me. The sound of all those expensive suits rustling around while they grabbed their iPads and leather folders was weird. Nobody would look at me. It was like I had some kind of disease they might catch. Look, the numbers don't lie," I said, trying to keep my cool. "Our equipment is failing at 60% of what it's supposed to handle. Our customers are happy," said Miranda Caldwell, the VP of Operations. She had this smile that never moved, like it was painted on. "Maybe you need to think about whether you're really cut out for this job, Eugene." They all walked out together, like some kind of parade. Their fancy shoes clicking on the floor sounded way too loud in the quiet room. There I was, laser pointer in my hand, pointing at data that proved beyond any doubt that our safety equipment was garbage. 8 executives. Every single one of the people running this company just walked out on me. Howard Sterling, our COO, stopped at the door. He put his hand on the light switch and looked back at me. "Don't bother finishing up in here, Walsh. Nobody's going to read whatever report you write anyway." Then he turned the lights off, leaving me sitting there in the dark with just my presentation glowing on the wall. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds. My heart was pounding at first, but then it slowed down, and I got this cold feeling. Not scared cold. More like when you finally understand something you should have figured out a long time ago. I'd been expecting this to happen, honestly. The way they just dumped on me was exactly what I thought they'd do. I pulled out my phone and called a number I'd saved weeks back, but hoped I'd never have to use. When she picked up, I said exactly 7 words. "They did exactly what you said they would." All of them. It was Agent Rebecca Torres on the other end. Every single one. And I got it all on recording. She was quiet for a second. "Give me 4 hours. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, looking at all that data still up there on the screen. Failed load tests, buried accident reports, test results that had been changed, all the stuff they didn't want anyone to see. But here's the thing about being an engineer for 23 years, minus you learn to write everything down, because in my line of work, missing details get people killed. I wasn't always the guy who made enemies. Growing up outside Detroit in a working family, my dad spent 30 years at the Ford plant. He'd come home with stories about corners being cut and safety warnings getting ignored. When that plant closed after some accidents that didn't have to happen, I promised myself I'd never keep my mouth shut if I saw something that could hurt people. In aerospace, I had a reputation for being thorough. I fixed problems without screwing up the programs I worked on. People knew me as someone who found answers, not someone who caused trouble. That's why Apex Industrial Safety hired me. "We need someone with your standards," Patricia told me during my interview, smiling like we were best friends. "We've got some minor quality issues that crept in. Just need fresh eyes on things." The guy before me, Barry Hutchinson, had left real sudden. Health problems, they said. His team acted funny when I asked about him. When I wanted to see his files, they gave me some story about his special system that nobody had figured out before he left. First red flag came when Jimmy Russo was showing me around the testing lab. Jimmy's been there 12 years, knows everything about safety equipment. He was answering my questions like he'd memorized a script. But when I asked about how they validate load ratings, he looked at this little camera in the corner before he answered. "We follow company procedures," he said, but his voice was tight, like someone was squeezing his throat. A week later, I found test results that didn't match what we were shipping. Safety gear that failed the stress tests was going out the door with approval stamps on it. When I brought this up to my team, they all just stared at their hands like kids who got caught stealing cookies. "Just stick to the established protocols." Howard told me when I asked for a private meeting. "The guy before you made things too complicated." Next day, there was an extra $15,000 in my pay account. No explanation, no paperwork. Just money that wasn't supposed to be there. I sent it back and kept digging. The pattern was pretty obvious once you looked for it. Our main construction safety line had serious problems that somebody was covering up on purpose. They'd changed the testing procedures to hide defects. Reports about equipment failures on job sites were getting buried somewhere. "The problem isn't the product," Miranda explained when I showed her what I'd found. We were in her office, just the two of us. "It's about managing expectations. Every industry has acceptable error margins. Not when those errors drop guys off 30-story buildings. I shot back. She slid a folder across her desk. Inside was a new contract with a $35,000 raise and this weird confidentiality clause. Everyone benefits when we're flexible about regulations, she said, tapping where I was supposed to sign. We take good care of team players. I took the folder, told her I'd think about it, and kept investigating. That night, I got an email from someone who didn't leave their name. All it said was Barry wasn't sick, and it had a bunch of safety reports attached. Reports that had been changed from what was in our official files. This whole thing goes back 12 years to a construction site in Cleveland where my brother Tommy was working high steel on a 40-story office building. Tommy was 29, married, had a 2-year-old daughter. He was careful about safety, followed every rule in the book. The harness he was wearing that morning came from Apex Industrial Safety. When the main anchor point failed at 400 pounds, way less than half what it was supposed to handle, Tommy fell 200 feet. The investigation said it was user error. Claimed he rigged it wrong, but I knew Tommy. I knew how careful he was. When I got my hands on that harness through some guys I knew from aerospace, I had it tested independently. The webbing showed clear manufacturing defects, stress points that should have been caught before it ever left the factory. That's when I started tracking Apex. That's when I learned about their history of failures, how they buried reports, their whole system for avoiding liability. And that's when I started planning. The morning I was supposed to give my presentation to the executive team, Jimmy found me in the parking garage by my truck. "They're setting you up," he whispered, looking around like he expected someone to jump out from behind a car. "They've been telling everyone your report is just you trying to get attention. Patricia already had your termination papers ready. Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Barry tried to do the right thing too." His voice cracked a little. He didn't deserve what happened to him. He walked off before I could ask anything else. But I could see it in his eyes, the same scared look I'd been seeing in my whole team. It made up my mind. I took one slide out of my presentation before the meeting, the one with the most damning evidence. I was saving that for something else. After all the executives walked out and left me sitting in the dark, I didn't call a reporter or a lawyer. I called Rebecca Torres, the lead OSHA investigator who'd been quietly building a case for months. I'd been feeding her information since my 3rd week on the job. "I sent you everything from today," I told Rebecca. "The walkout happened exactly like we thought it would, and they said those things about the Denver incident on record." "Good," she said. I could hear her typing. Howard specifically mentioned handling it like Denver when he talked about burying those incident reports. "That connects everything we needed. Stay put for now," she said. "Act normal if anyone comes back." I gathered up my stuff slowly, taking my time. The humiliation that should have crushed me just made me more determined. For 8 months, I'd been building a case while they thought they were breaking me down. First time I contacted Rebecca wasn't planned. I found her name in files Barry had hidden and encrypted. Barry didn't leave because he was sick. He'd been documenting the same problems I found. His final report disappeared the same day he did. When I reached out to Rebecca, she was careful about what she said. "Barry stopped answering my calls 6 months ago. She told me. Company said he was unavailable due to medical leave." "He's not sick," I said. According to his wife, who I tracked down, he took a big settlement with a gag order after they threatened to charge him with fraud. That's when we started working together. We knew going at them head-on wouldn't work. They had too many lawyers, too much money to bury any accusations. We needed them to hang themselves, preferably where we could record it. I walked through the empty hallways to my office after the meeting. Everything felt different now, like the air was charged. I checked my watch 2 hours until Rebecca's team made their move. My office door was open. Miranda was sitting in my chair, turned toward my computer. "That was quite a show," she said. "Dramatic, but not really surprising considering your attitude." I set my stuff down. "Something else you wanted to say that you couldn't say in front of the group?" She had that painted-on smile again. "You know, Eugene, I actually argued for hiring you. Your aerospace background impressed me, but you got the wrong idea about your job from day one." She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. "Your position is terminated. Effective immediately. Security will walk you out in 20 minutes. Her eyes got narrow. "Whatever materials you've collected, stay here. All of it. The company owns everything you created while you worked here." "I understand," I said. Something about how calm I was made her suspicious. "This isn't a discussion, Eugene. You've made enemies of people who don't forget. People with connections across this entire industry. Is that a threat? It's reality. Your career ended when you decided to go against this team." She headed for the door. "I respect your principles, even though they're misguided. But principles don't mean much against 8 executives who all agree you're done." "You're right," I said. "No one's going to believe my word against yours." After she left, I opened my desk drawer. Inside was a small recording device that had been capturing every conversation in my office for 10 weeks. I slipped it in my pocket just as my phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca. Ahead of schedule. Team arriving now. Lobby in 10. I grabbed my personal stuff, just enough to look like I was cooperating. Walking through the department, my team watched me like they were at a funeral. Some of them knew what was coming, others thought they were watching me get destroyed. Jimmy caught up with me by the elevators. They're saying you tried to blame manufacturing for design problems, he whispered. Patricia's already announcing your replacement. Is that what they're saying? I hit the down button. Interesting timing. What are you going to do now? The elevator doors opened. Sometimes I said getting in, you have to let people think they've won before they realize they've lost. The lobby was busy with the usual afternoon crowd when the front doors swung open. 6 people in dark suits walked in, led by Rebecca herself. Her badge was already out as she walked up to the security desk. OSHA Enforcement Division. She announced loud enough for everyone to hear. We have a warrant to search company records and conduct interviews. The security guard looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He grabbed his phone and started making calls. Within minutes, the whole lobby turned into controlled chaos. Employees stopped what they were doing to watch. People started pulling out their phones. Someone from legal came running down, demanding to see paperwork. I stood by the reception desk, watching Rebecca hand over documents and explain the situation like she was reading from a manual. Her team split up and headed for the elevators with very nervous legal people following them around. Patricia showed up looking like her hair was on fire, giving orders to some junior lawyer who looked more scared by the minute. When she spotted me, her face went from angry to suspicious real quick. She walked over and positioned herself so I couldn't see what was happening. I hope you understand what you've done, she said quietly. This little tantrum is going to destroy more than just your career. Sounds serious, I said. Maybe you should share those concerns with the agents upstairs. Her face went tight. You signed confidentiality agreements. Anything you shared violated was reported through proper OSHA channels. I finished. Nothing outside standard regulatory requirements. You could see the color drain from her face when she realized what I was saying. I hadn't leaked anything to reporters or competitors. I just followed mandatory reporting protocols they'd been ignoring for years. You have no idea what you're dealing with, she said, lowering her voice. This company has survived worse than one angry engineer. I looked her right in the eye. I'm not angry, Patricia. I'm doing exactly what you hired me to do, making sure safety standards are met. Something about my expression made her step back. Security will escort you out immediately, actually said a voice behind her. Mr. Walsh will be staying to help with our investigation. Rebecca was standing there with her badge visible. We have some questions about the presentation that was interrupted earlier today. The next 4 hours felt like watching a machine take apart a watch. Agents moved through the building, securing computers and files. Executives got pulled into separate rooms for interviews. Employees stood around watching years of careful lies fall apart in real time. I sat in a conference room, not the same one from earlier, answering questions and explaining things while Rebecca's team put together their case. Through the glass walls, I could see people getting more and more freaked out as whiteboards got filled with timelines and connections. At 4:30, Howard got walked out of his office looking like he'd seen a ghost. By 5:15, 6 more executives followed, not in handcuffs, but definitely not running anything anymore. When they walked past the conference room where I was sitting with Rebecca, Patricia looked right at me. The look on her face when she finally understood that the engineer they'd written off as incompetent had systematically destroyed their entire operation that was almost worth 8 months of being treated like garbage. But that was just the beginning. What none of them knew was that tomorrow morning their whole house of cards was going to collapse in ways they couldn't even imagine. The evidence we collected today was just one piece of a bigger puzzle that had been building for years before I even got there. I drove home that night thinking about Tommy, about how he always double-checked his rigging, how he'd taught me to never trust equipment until you tested it yourself, about his little girl who's 14 now and barely remembers her dad, about all the other guys who might not go home to their families if someone doesn't speak up. My ex-wife called while I was having a beer on my back porch. Saw the news, she said. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. Kids are proud of you. They saw it online. That meant something. My son's in college now, studying engineering like his old man. My daughter's a senior in high school, wants to be a nurse. They've been watching their dad work on this for months without really understanding what it was about. Tell them thanks, I said. Eugene, she said before hanging up. What you did took guts. The next morning felt different, like the air pressure had changed overnight. Company headquarters looked smaller somehow, less intimidating. There were more security guards, unfamiliar faces checking IDs, news vans lined up outside the property behind temporary barriers. By noon, they'd stopped trading the company's stock. By 2 p.m., 7 executives had submitted resignations. By 4 p.m., federal prosecutors were announcing preliminary charges against 6 executives, with more coming. The local news ran the story that night. Federal investigation shuts down major safety equipment manufacturer. They interviewed some construction workers who'd been hurt using Apex equipment. One guy showed the scars on his back from when his fall protection failed. Another talked about losing 2 fingers when a safety cable snapped. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't about me versus them. This was about all those guys who go to work every morning trusting that the equipment they're using won't kill them. About their families who assume they're coming home safe every night. My phone rang around 7 p.m. Number I didn't recognize. Is this Eugene Walsh? Yeah? This is Mike Rodriguez with Rocky Mountain Construction Safety. We've been following the news about Apex. Our safety board wants to discuss a consulting position, helping construction companies identify compromised equipment. You interested? I smiled. Very much so. Great. We'll email you the details. What you did took real backbone, Mr. Walsh. Construction industry needs more people willing to stand up. After I hung up, I sat on my porch for a while working on my 1978 Harley. It's a Sportster that's been in pieces more times than I can count, but there's something about putting things back together the right way that clears your head. Tommy used to help me with it when we were younger. He had good hands for mechanical work. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a federal courthouse watching Patricia Voss get sentenced to 18 months in prison. Howard Sterling got 2 years. Miranda Caldwell took a plea deal and got probation with community service. The company itself got hit with $23 million in fines and had to set up a victim compensation fund. The judge, an older guy who looked like he'd seen everything, made a point during sentencing that stuck with me. Corporate executives who prioritize profit over public safety, he said, are not business leaders. They are threats to the communities they claim to serve. Apex Industrial Safety doesn't exist anymore. The company was broken up and sold off in pieces. The manufacturing facilities got bought by competitors who actually test their products. The headquarters building is now a medical office complex. I started my consulting work with Rocky Mountain Construction Safety in September. The job is exactly what you'd think. I visit construction sites, review safety protocols, test equipment, and write reports about what needs fixing. It's not glamorous work, but it's honest work. Most of the guys I meet on job sites are like Tommy was. They work hard, they follow the rules, and they trust that the equipment they're using will keep them alive. They don't deserve to have that trust betrayed by some executive in an expensive suit who's never worked a day of physical labor in their life. The first site I inspected was a 35-story hotel going up in Denver. The crew foreman, a guy named Carlos who'd been doing high steel for 20 years, showed me around. When I tested their fall protection equipment, I found 3 harnesses that would have failed under load. How'd you know to check those specific ones? Carlos asked. Experience, I said, and I had a brother who trusted equipment that shouldn't have been trusted. Carlos nodded. He understood. Guys like him always understand. The construction industry has changed since Tommy died. OSHA regulations are stricter now. Testing requirements are more thorough, and companies face real consequences for cutting corners. But there's still work to do. There are still executives who think safety regulations are suggestions, still manufacturers who prioritize deadlines over testing, still workers who get hurt because someone decided to save a few dollars. My kids came to visit last month. My son's finishing his engineering degree, wants to work in renewable energy. My daughter got accepted to nursing school. We were sitting around my kitchen table, and my son asked me if I ever regretted what I did at Apex. Regret exposing safety violations that were getting people hurt. I said, hell no. But it cost you your job, my daughter said. And you made a lot of enemies. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you something. I told them. But not doing the right thing costs you more. She thought about that for a minute, like Uncle Tommy. Yeah, like Uncle Tommy. I keep a picture of Tommy on my desk now. It's from when he was about 25, wearing his hard hat and safety vest, grinning at the camera like he owned the world. Back then, I thought he was invincible. We all did. It's a good reminder that none of us are invincible, but we can look out for each other. The motorcycle's running good now. I take it out on weekends, usually head up into the mountains where the air is thin and clean. There's something about the sound of a well-tuned engine and the feeling of the road under the wheels that puts things in perspective. Tommy would have liked these rides. Last week I got a letter from Barry Hutchinson's wife. She said Barry had been following the news about Apex and wanted to thank me for finishing what he started. He never got over having to stay quiet. She wrote, seeing those executives get arrested helped him sleep better than he had in years. That meant something. Barry was a good engineer who got bullied into silence. He deserved better than that. They all did. The consulting work keeps me busy. Construction companies are taking safety more seriously now, partly because of what happened at Apex, and partly because word gets around fast in this industry. Nobody wants to be the next company on the front page of the newspaper with federal agents walking through their lobby. I'm not trying to be a hero here. I'm just an engineer who knows how to read test data and isn't afraid to tell people what it means. But if that makes me a hero to guys like Carlos and Jimmy and all the other workers who depend on their equipment to keep them alive, then I guess I'm okay with that. Sometimes people ask me if I'd do it all again, knowing what I know now. Knowing it would cost me my job. Knowing it would turn my life upside down. Knowing it would make enemies of people with long memories and deep pockets. The answer's always the same. Yeah, I'd do it again, because Tommy's not coming back, but maybe somebody else's brother will make it home safe because we held people accountable. That's worth more than any job, any salary, any comfortable retirement. That's worth everything. If you've stuck with me through this whole story, I appreciate it. It takes courage to listen to someone talk about standing up to powerful people, because it makes you think about the powerful people in your own life who might need standing up to. Whether you're dealing with a corrupt boss, a dangerous workplace, or a company that's putting profits ahead of people's safety, remember this: you're not as powerless as they want you to think you are. Sometimes one person with the truth and the backbone to speak, it can bring down an entire corrupt system. The hard part isn't having the evidence, it's having the guts to use it. But if you've got both, then the bullies and the corner cutters better watch out, because their time is up.
I'm freezing. I'm bleeding. Slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, no, it's just my last defense. 'Cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. No, I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay. Some days feel off, like I'm standing but still falling. A little pain, a little tired, and no one to tell it all to. There are days that feel unsteady, like I'm drifting out of place. Every step just feels so heavy. With a smile I have to fake. A little hurt I keep inside me, a little weight I always hide, and 1,000 quiet worries I've been holding deep inside. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. I keep walking through the silence like it's all I've ever known. Every crowded room reminds me how it feels to be alone. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Maybe one day I'll be stronger, maybe I'll learn how to speak, but for now I keep it buried in the parts of me too weak. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you.